In this video, we will look at a couple of additional manipulators, and we'll look at an example of how to output some different type of mixed type data in a nicely formatted form to the screen. So the new manipulators that you'll see here, we have left, I'm also going to use right, and we'll have setfill up here. This program, as always, we have the same pound includes in the namespace, and the variables are shown here. So this is going to represent some fictitious employee data information. The first name will be a type string, the last name will be a type string. We'll have a middle initial, which is just one letter, so that can be a character. An employee number, which is an unsigned integer. Then we have the float for wage and hours, and finally double pay. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different data types that we're dealing with. The output to the screen here, we're going to write employee record database, and I'm slipping in a little extra something for you here. We have a \n followed by \n. That also will cause you to go to a new line. So that is exactly the same as if I had two ENDL inline statements following this. So just to show you, you can still use this shortcut \n. I'm including it here. Then we write to the screen, enter the following information for each employee. And we'll have a couple of line feeds, a couple of returns. And here is the order to type things in. Last name, first name, middle initial, the ID number, the wage, and the hours worked. So we will enter all of that information. And then here's a regular cout statement with two end lines. Okay, so you can either do the two end lines like that, or you can use the \n inside the double quote if you want to. All right, well, now let's input all of those values up here. Okay, everything but pay. We'll compute the pay. But all of this other stuff, we want to read that in from the keyboard. If you are familiar with C, if you've had a C programming course, and if you've used scanf, then you know that this could be pretty complicated. But now that we are learning how to use cin, then let's write a cin statement that will read in all of that information. Now we'll type it from the keyboard. Cin, and it turns out to be pretty easy. Last name, and the insertion operator has to go between each one. Okay, first name. Okay, then the middle initial is just initial. And then we have the ID number, and our variable for that is called the employee number. Okay, so we got employee number. And working our way across, we have the wage. And how many hours did we work? Bang. That's all there is to it. So these are different types. Hours hours and wage are the same type. That's an unsigned integer. Employee ID, that's a character, string, and a string. So it is really easy, because with the cin statement, you do not need to be concerned about the type of data that is being read in. The cin statement can do that, and you don't need any special characters like you would need if you're using scanf. Now, this will input the information. Now we want to do a calculation and output some results here. All right, so I tell you what, let's just go ahead and output some information. So we'll do a cout, and we'll do an end line. So that just skips a line for us. Now, how do we want to output this information? Now the string is going to be a string, and the first name is a string, and that's a character. Employee number is an integer. But we have a couple of floats here. We have hours, we have wage. So do we want those in scientific notation, or do we want them in a fixed notation? Well, I'm thinking we probably don't want scientific, so let's use fixed for that. So we'll set that flag as well. Now, the cout statements. We'll do a cout, And let's just print out, okay, we'll double quote, last name. And let's see, let's spell it right. Let's put a colon and then a space. Oh, we don't need a space. Let's just do it like that. Last name and then the variable last name with an end line. Okay, so the last name will be right after the colon here. All right, so let me do a copy and paste, and now I'll just edit these. So then we want to do the first name. So we'll do that. Then we want to do the initial. Just print everything back out. So let's call this the initial. Okay, keep going. So what's next? Here we got the employee number. Okay, employee number. And so that's the variable employee no. And we're almost done with that. Then we just have the wage. And finally, we want the hours. So let's make that hours worked. And the variable is just hours. And that's everything that we input. So now let's compute the pay. Pay is just equal to the wage times the hours. And then we can output the final pay. So let's do another cout statement. Okay, the pay as the pay. All right, and then we terminate the program down here. Now let's just go ahead and run the program the way we have it, and we'll type in the information and we'll see what we get. So I'm going to build the program. And it worked, so I'll run the program. Okay, there's our output window. So now we get the output. So here's the output to the screen, employee record database, enter the following information. It tells us what to type in. All right, so great. Let's make up somebody here. So last name is Jones. Okay, first name is Ray. Okay, middle initial, and let's just call that T. And it doesn't really matter how many spaces we put between these, just so there's at least one space. ID number, make it easy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say the wage is 20 bucks an hour, and the hours worked is 40. And we type, that's it. So we hit the enter key, and then all the information comes back. All right, so here's the output. So you can see here that we have the last name. Let's line it up a little bit better here. So from these cout statements here on the left, then you can see the output that shows up over here. So that's the output. So everything looks pretty good. The one thing that might bother you is that we have all these extra zeros over here. Okay, so that's not what you would typically see if we're working with dollars and cents. So we need to make that 2. And if you remember our last video, you know exactly how to do that. Okay, so let's go back and let's modify the program so we don't have all those digits. And we can do this up here in the same place we do fixed. Okay, and what do? We set precision to 2. Okay, so that will cut off all those extra zeros on the right side. Okay, so that'll come into play. But there's something else that I'd like to do here. For one thing, wouldn't it be nice if those things all lined up? That would be nice. So in front of each one of these things, let's print out all of these string constants using the same number of print positions on the screen. So let's start with that, and that should make all these line up. So in front of each one, I'm going to do a set width, and It's pretty long there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, like 20 should be enough, all right? So I'm going to do a set width to 20 and add an insertion operator. Right? So I'm going to put this in front of each one of my string constants so that they will be written out in a field of 20. All right, so to make this easy, I am just going to copy that little part right there, the insertion operator, and set width 20. And then I'm going to paste that in front of all these other guys here. Okay, so cursor there, paste, and paste, and paste, and paste. Okay, I think I lost the insertion operator right there, so let's put it back. All right, now we have to do the set width every single time because it is the only manipulator that is active only for the next thing that it's output. So once it prints out, in this case, last name or the string last name, it's done. So everything else will go back to a default width of only enough space to print out the actual information. Alrighty, well, let's see if this helps our alignment any. Okay, so let's build the program, and we'll run the program again, and let's see what kind of formatting we get this time. Okay, so let's bring this over, and we have to type in the information again. Alrighty, so I don't remember what I put in last time. Okay, but I'll try. Ray, T, ID, 234. Then let's see, the wage at 20 and the hours worked was 40. Oh, I didn't do the same thing for pay down here. Okay, now if you notice the colons here, they're all lined up. So that's kind of what I wanted. The other thing, notice that the wage now and the hours worked, and as well the pay, the set precision to 2 means we now have only those 2 digits to the right of the decimal, so that looks like dollars and cents. All right. The next thing I want to do is, I would like for those colons to kind of be, well, what I really like is for the J and the R and the T and the 1, all those things, I want those to be all lined up one above the other. But I'd really like for this part to be over here on the left side. Okay, move this over here, move this over here. So let's see if we can do that. And I'll also take care of the pay. I didn't do that one. So let's fix that. And first of all, I'll do the pay. So I'll copy that and I'll put that in here. Okay, so now all of them have the set width. Now, if I want that formatting to be such that these things, this information is left justified in a field of 20, then I can do that. I can set the alignment. So I'll put this on a separate line so that it kind of stands out. I'll do a C out left. Ooh, okay. That means left justify in the field. Right. So if I have a field width here of 20, then instead of being right justified as it would by default, now it will be left justified. So there's a new manipulator for you. Okay, left. So left is a manipulator, and as I'm sure you can guess, right is also a manipulator to set it back. Once you use left, then everything is left justified until you reset it to right. So let's build it and run it. Here's our output. And we have to type in the information once again. So bear with me while I do that. I think that's everything. Ooh, okay. So now the alignment looks better. This is what I was trying to get to. Okay, so if we can look at that, kind of don't want to move it all the way off screen here. But these C out statements now, I have left justified everything in a field of 20 for each one of those. And you can see the output. So we have the last name, Jones, first name, Ray, and so on. So all of these are lined up, one atop the other. And all of these things are lined up one above the other. So that was what I was looking for. Now, there's one more thing I would like to do. These are spaces. This is just some spaces that are filled in here. By default, that's what you will always get. But you can change that. You can change these spaces to something else, and that's what I want to do. I want to change them to dots. Okay, so I'm going to stop the program, and I'm going to add that in. Okay, now we can do this anywhere above the actual statements where we print stuff out. So I can include it, anywhere up here. But as we're moving from top to bottom, let's just include it right here. So we'll do a C out, and here is another manipulator called setfill. And be careful here because you use a single quote and then a single character. Okay, and then this is a semicolon. This character can be any character that you can type. We could put a 0, we could put an X, we can put the number 7. Whatever your keyboard offers, then you can use that as a character in here. So what that is going to do is it's going to set the fill to dots. And like the other manipulators, other than set width, once you do this, it does remain set until you change it to something else. All right, now let's see what that does to our output. So we'll build the program one more time. And we will run the program. And we'll still have to type in that initial information. I'm beginning to remember it, so that's a repetition causes me to remember, I guess. Wage was 20, and the hours worked was 40. So now you can see the result of the set fill. Right, so, and in this case, it fills in those spaces with dots instead of spaces. So you might like the way that output looks, and you've seen this kind of thing in books where you have a table of contents or an index or something like that. But to illustrate this this formatting option, then I'm just choosing to use some dots in here. All right, so that's what setfill does. Where you would normally get a space, now you get something else. All right, after we're all done with that, then that sort of completes this program. And if we were going to go on and do some other calculations and stuff down here, then we probably would want to do the setfill and return it to a blank. So a space, a blank, and a quote, a single quote, and then a space, a single quote, semicolon, and that does have to go with C out. Okay, this will return the fill character to space. Let's call it restore fill character to space. Okay. So then any C out statements that follow below this, then they will not be filled in with dots, they'll be filled in with spaces. Now, one last little thing I want to use here is we have the pay, and it would be kind of neat to have a $sign there, but that's going to be left justified. So how can I get a $sign for this? Well, I can include it right here if I want to. Right? So I can do, this is going to be left justified. It's going to print out the word pay. There'll be a bunch of spaces, and then the pay is going to show up over here. So if I want the $sign to show up next to that, then I can just add that in. It's a double quote, $sign, a double quote, and then output the pay. Okay. So then this will put a $sign in front of the pay. And that will be it. So let's do one more compile, and we'll run the program. I'll stop it. I'll build it. And I'll run it. And I'll have to type in the employee. I'll let employee data one more time. Okay, let's change it up. Okay, Susie M. ID number 5674. Okay, let's make the wage 25.50, and let's make the hours worked a short week, make it 35. Right? So here's another employee. Then here is the result. So there you have it. So we have the employee data record with all of the information, and we have this lined up here with the first name, last name, and so on. And we have the format for these values to be precision of 2. Okay, so that's where all that shows up. And we put a $sign on the last one. Right, so we could have also done the $sign in here for the wage. At any rate, that concludes this program. And remember that the additional manipulators that we used left. I didn't use right, but if you want to set the justification to right, then you could use the right manipulator. We used the setfill, which allowed us to fill in the blank spaces with something other than a space. And this is just an example of how you can use these formatting options to make your output look pretty much any way you want to on the screen. So that's it for this video, so we will close here.